You are now listening to Turk and Raz. We bring you our thoughts and reactions to what is happening in pop culture today, and we go back in time to revisit classic films of the past. Oh yeah, that is right. Can you hear the children of the night? We got a packed house tonight for our final pick in our Halloween Retro Roundtable Spectacular, and it's a groovy one at that. Oh yeah. Before we get started, first things first, Turk, it's time to take care of some real business. You know what to do.
Let's go.
All right, Turk, are you excited?
Super excited.
Super excited. We're doing Evil Dead 2, the 1987 American comedy horror directed by Sam Raimi. It is written by Raimi and Scott Spiegel. It stars Bruce Campbell as the idiot Ash Williams, who is, to me, this character is up there in the horror lexicon such as Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees.
I agree.
Evil Dead 2 was shot in Wadesboro, North Carolina, and Detroit, Michigan in 1986. It featured extensive stop-motion, animation, and prosthetic makeup effects. The film was released in the United States on March 13th, 1987, so another 35th anniversary.
Congratulations.
That has not been a theme with us this year, has it? This film was widely acclaimed by critics, praised for its humor, Raimi's direction, and Campbell's performance. It has increased special effects, and slapstick gore makes it as good, if not better, than the original, and I would say yes. Despite being given somewhat a limited release, it was a minor box office success, grossing just under $6 million. That's pretty impressive. Evil Dead 2 has been one of the staples for me to watch during Halloween time. I usually try to catch it at least, maybe not every year, but every consecutive year I'll try to watch these movies. I just love it. I love the gore, I love the action, the comedy. So I know, Turk, you actually just seen it for the first time, so this is kind of your introductory, but for me, I've seen it as when I was a kid, loved it then.
It is. I can't wait to actually maybe start rewatching some of the other ones that go with it. That'll be good too. But yeah, first time watching it last night. It was pretty funny, pretty campy. I didn't know what to expect going in, so it was quite the shocking realization of just how goofy and campy it really was, and how the stop motion effects were, in my opinion, actually pretty good, but some of the effects didn't really do that well for me. But I still am intrigued by this movie, and I actually probably will still watch it again just because I like to laugh. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, this movie has a lot of fun stuff in it. Like, it's very violent, it's gruesome, it's very over the top, and I think that's what makes it great. There's so many like horror movies where there's tons of violence and gore, but this one, because it's slapstick and it kind of has fun with it, I think anyone can enjoy, so you don't have to worry about, because like I think a lot of people don't watch horror movies or some of these because it scares them, where this scares you in the right place. It has the right kind of creepy and pop out moments. So yeah, it's fantastic. And for me, I know this is your first time, so it's been kind of exciting to see what your first impressions are, because obviously I have a history with this film, but yours, it's new, and it's kind of exciting to hear what you really think of it when we break it down. Well, really, the premise of this film, it's Ash Williams vacations with his girlfriend to a remote cabin in the woods. He discovers an audio tape of recitations from a book of ancient texts, and when the recording is played, it unleashes a number of demons which possess and torment him.
Cabin in the woods.
Yeah.
How many times do you have to tell people don't go to a cabin in the woods, right? Like, nothing good happens ever.
Whoa, but you're probably wondering, why are we not talking about the first Evil Dead movie? Well, in a way, Evil Dead 2 is kind of the first Evil Dead movie. It's kind of complicated. Basically, it came down to Sam Raimi could not use the rights to the first movie, so he kind of did a soft reboot. However, you can still connect everything in the Evil Dead timeline. For those that are kind of not too familiar with the Evil Dead franchise, and maybe you just seen the movie, we'll just kind of do a quick summary of the events that happened. For those that are Evil Dead experts, hey, leave your comments in the comment section. Oh yeah. The first Evil Dead movie. What happened? Well, 5 university students, Ash and his girlfriend Linda, Cheryl his little sister, and Ash's friend Scott and his girlfriend Shelley, they all travel to an isolated cabin in the countryside. Right away, they know something is off, but proceed anyways, like all horror movies, right? They inadvertently break the only bridge that connected them to the outside world. And we kind of start to see Deadites start becoming active, some evil demonic spirits. For example, in the movie, Cheryl's hand gets possessed while drawing. She hears whispers. She draws and sketches a book resembling the Necronomicon Ex Mortis. What is that? Who knows, right? Later, a trap door swings open while they are all having dinner. Scott and Ash investigate, and they return with the book and tape recording conveniently. They play it. Of course they do. That leads the Deadites to have free reign over the cabin, and Ash and his friends are attacked by these demonic entities. They are even attacked by these demonically possessed trees. The Muppets gone rogue. By the end of the movie, everyone is possessed and killed, except for you-know-who, Ashy Slashy, by saving himself at the last minute by throwing the book into the fire. However, the movie ends on a cliffhanger, and an unseen entity or thing attacks Ash from behind. Alright, now fast forward to Evil Dead 2. The movie begins by telling a recap of the previous movie, wherein, but this time, only Ash and Linda travel to the cabin, spring break. After the recap, we get to know that after the events of the previous movie, when Ash is attacked by that unknown entity, Ash is now possessed by the evil entity, but he is saved by daylight. He tries to drive away from the cabin because why would anybody in their right mind would want to spend another night, right? Unless you're into some really funky stuff. Unfortunately, only find that the bridge is broken. He races back to the cabin by nightfall. He is then attacked by the headless horseman. I'm just kidding. The body of his now ex-girlfriend, Linda, and she's got a chainsaw. She even bites his hand, so Ash's hand now becomes possessed. After comically smashing china plates on his head, he dismembers his hand, and it's a gruesome scene. Elsewhere, Annie Nobi discovers a few more Necronomicon Ex Mortis pages and heads to the cabin herself with her research partner and 2 hillbilly locals. It was her father, after all, who tape recorded the book, and she is looking to find out what has happened. Afterwards, in the movie, Ash starts using a chainsaw attached to his stump. Again, as usual, by the end of the movie, no one survives but Ash. But this time, with a fun twist. Just before dying, Annie completes reading out loud the passages that stops the Deadites. It also opens a vortex, and it sucks the Deadites into, also it sucks Ash, even his Oldsmobile Delta. Not the poor Delta, come on man, take it easy on a man's car. Ash finds himself on the other side of the vortex, but this time he is in the year 13 AD. Uh-oh.
So it's like a soft reset, kind of.
It's a soft reset, sequel, non-sequel, reboot. It's crazy. It depends on how you want to look at it.
True.
For me, because I told you that we've watched the first one. Personally, I didn't care for the first Evil Dead movie. I understand it was innovative for the time. I understand it put Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi on the map, but that movie's played like a true horror film. And it doesn't have a lot of laughs. Well, maybe there is laughs for some people, but for me, I didn't find it that funny or that. I just wasn't really entertained with it. With this film, I love the over-the-top slapstick.
Yeah, I think, you know, when you go and watch a horror film and it's, you know, a fairly serious one, but you don't want to go to bed until you watch a comedy after, so you can kind of put your mind at a lighter mood before you go to bed. This one, I think you could watch this one and still go to bed after because you laughed while it was happening. So it's not really a serious horror, and so this one is a very lighthearted, and I enjoyed it.
Well, even when the certain characters are possessed in the film, they're pretty funny. Like some of their antics,
it's comical.
They do, it's very comical. Like, yeah, like they say funny zingers, and it's also because Bruce Campbell's his physical comedy is on full display in this film.
He's great.
He did most of his stunts except I think where he falls down the cellar stairs.
Yeah,
they had to use a stand-in for that, but like when you see him, especially when in the scene when his hand is possessed and he's hitting himself with the plates and he does that somersault, that's Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, right on.
It's fantastic. The movie opens up with it kind of the retelling of what this book is. I like all that imagery, and it kind of shows off stop motion. It tells you, like, I like when movies kind of give you, like, this is the Book of the Dead, written by the Dark Ones. It was written in blood.
Well, yeah, they tell you, the prologue basically tells you that the book goes missing in 1300 AD. So, and then now the book has been found. And now we're realizing what the book is capable of.
This is an archaeologist's cabin and family. What's kind of curious in the context of Evil Dead 2, why is Ash going up there and taking his girlfriend? Because she kind of asks him, like, is it okay if we're there? And he's like, oh, don't worry about it, baby. This'll be all good.
Right, yeah.
Like, but you're like, essentially, like, how does he know about this cabin? Because if you don't take the events from the first movie into consideration for it doesn't apply to this, you're like, okay, how does he know about this cabin? Was he out here before? You don't really know why, but he takes her to this dumpy cabin that looks like Dale and Tucker's cabin.
Yes.
Doesn't it?
Pretty close.
I feel that cabin in that movie was inspired by this cabin.
Maybe it was.
And if you look at this cabin from the outside, it looks like this little dinky 1-bedroom cabin, but when you get into it, it's like...
It's huge.
It's huge. It's got a kitchen.
It is. They did film this in a gymnasium, I believe, in Carolina. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like huge inside. It's kind of like Harry Potter, where they use magic and they're using these tents like in the Goblet of Fire, and then they walk in there. It's like this palatial palace.
It's huge. Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, well, he's getting his jiggy with his girlfriend there, and he decides to turn on a tape recorder, and we listen to some cantations from Raymond Noby, or Nobody. I like to call him Nobody, but it's Noby, archaeologist, and he explains that him and his family discovered these ancient, the Book of Dead, the Necronomicon Ex Mortis.
Say that 3 times.
He unleashes evil forces, also known as the Kandorian demon that kills and later possesses Linda, and it turns her into a deadite.
Now, before this happens, I really loving me some Linda. I just, because she was looking mighty good earlier in the film before she turns, and then I stopped liking Linda. But I don't know. Watching these movies, you just remember how beautiful the women really were all the time. And it's just like watching movies today, I don't really...
Yeah, no,
I don't know. Whatever.
Well, she's not really in the film a lot, but she actually really stands out. And a little side note, she was the ex-wife of Steve Guttenberg from Police Academy.
Good for him.
A little bit of tidbit.
He did good.
He did good. And she was fantastic. Watching some of the behind the scenes of the making of this film, she really seemed like a fun person to have on the set. Like, she seemed to really enjoy being in the film. Put all the plaster, and like, she has some really meaty shit in here.
Right.
Like, she really hams it up, and she does good. And I remember Linda a lot. She stood out, and I'm like, well, she's really not in the film that long.
Right.
Like, she basically dies right away.
Yeah, I know. I miss her, but yeah. And then I didn't like her after that, because then she turned evil.
Oh, she's filthy and fine.
The evil comes in there, possesses her. She attacks Ash, and notice in the film like how time really speeds up, because like it must be like almost before dawn, and boom, she gets possessed, she goes after him, and then when he cleaves her head off with the shovel, it's like it's night already. And of course what he just does, he just buries her.
Time moves really fast in this film. You have no recollection of like what time it is, because it goes from like day to night to day like so quick. It's just like you can't even keep up,
because evil kind of comes after him, you know, with the camera, and he's running away from it, and eventually it gets him. Like he kind of tries to drive away to go to the bridge, but the bridge is all smashed it up, so he can't escape. So then he goes back and it's after him, and before you know it, when he gets kind of hit by the evil, he's kind of knocked out, so he kind of basically spends the day, because it does possess him. In a great shot where they showed just his eye.
Just one thing that stood out to me was just like when we discussed with the Lost Boys, how using the camera to give the viewer imagination of like the bad person coming at you, or like, you know, the shaky camera coming. I found that this one too, like a lot of times the camera was the villain in this movie a lot. When he was driving, when it was chasing him throughout the giant house, him running into walls and doors, like I love that part, because it made you imagine like what the evil could be chasing him throughout.
And the evil even gets duped by him when it can't find him in the house, so it leaves, But so I don't know where the evil went, but he kind of hides from it.
No, I just really like that. Because sometimes I prefer not seeing the villain right away, because I want to be intrigued and I want to have an imagination of what the villain could look like.
And it's a nice effect. It's just like another character that you don't see.
It is, that's right.
But you do eventually see it.
You do.
You do. And it looks like an apple head.
Like it's not terrible. I'll say it's not terrible. No, I've seen worse. At least with this movie, it's not a terrible villain, and when they show the villain, it actually works for me.
Many characters get possessed. You see different kind of renditions of evil people, so it's not just the one big villain. The movie establishes by day, like vampires, it goes away, which is kind of funny, because when you watch throughout the series The Evil Dead, it doesn't really apply, but this movie it does. Okay. So he spends his day out there sleeping,
wakey eggs and bakey,
like how many hours he was out there knocked out or sleeping, and then he wakes up and it's like, oh, it's coming after me again. So it's pretty crazy. But I like the one shot I thought was really inventive, where they had that prosthetic eye. You see that his eye, he has no pupils or anything, it's just white. They filmed that reverse, where it's basically milk, you know, the way it's mixed in there, like how you mix your coffee. I thought that was pretty cool, pretty inventive in some of the stuff they did here. By night, he gets attacked by Linda, really, and would you really notice how decrepit her body is?
It's looking pretty bad.
She definitely did not age well, that's for sure.
Little side note, I learned this last night, that when they showed this movie in Germany, the translation of Evil Dead, it translated to Dancing with the Dead in Germany, in German films, or in their theaters. And really, this is the only scene in the movie where a dead person is dancing. So I could imagine like people in Germany going to see this movie of Dancing with the Dead, and then they only see it happen one little time. So I can imagine the Germans are probably like, what the heck?
Yeah, no doubt, If you weren't convinced that this film was like a horror comedy, I think after seeing the stop motion dancing and acting and having fun, because like the evil characters in this film are having fun. And I love the projection that they do. Like, so when they're talking smack to him, you're like, they never loved you, or I'm gonna get you, give me a kiss. Like they talk smack. And another thing is, most of this film, Bruce Campbell has no lines. He's all by himself. So it's just him and basically the scenery just all around him. So like a large portions of this film, he's acting against like props, and he does a hell of a job.
And that's probably a lot harder to do than you think.
It probably would be, because as actors and doing these films, most of the time you kind of do your reaction from the person who's playing across from you. So you can tell how talented Bruce Campbell is, because they don't call him the king of B movies for nothing.
No.
And so by then, the headless Linda tries to kill him with a chainsaw. Well, basically
the head bites his hand, right?
Right.
He puts her in the vice.
Because he's sitting in the chair there.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is after he duped the evil. Like, and so he's sitting there, he's all wigged out, and then the head just falls in his lap.
Yeah.
And then she ends up biting him on his bowling hand.
Yeah. So he's running around the house and he's smacking her head all over the place, dinging it off pots and pans and walls and shit and trees. Yeah. Oh my God, it's hilarious.
So he goes to the shed because he finds a vise in there and he puts it in there and then he's looking for items. So he pulls back the drape, and I like the outline of the chainsaw, and this is something you see in this franchise. There's always an outline of a chainsaw.
Yeah, well, and I mean that's in every dude's, like, okay, maybe not chainsaws, but that's in every dude's tool shed, is they outline their tools so you know where to put them.
Right, especially out there, you know.
Yeah.
So something's not right, and then he gets attacked by the headless Linda while she's from the vice talking smack. So, and then he eventually gets the better, and then the blood starts spurting out, and it goes onto the light there, and it's red.
This is where you see the shadow of him cutting her head with the chainsaw, which I really love, like, because you don't need to show the gore there, but just to show the shadow of you doing it gets the point across really well.
Yeah, it worked better because I think they had a more original elaborate where you actually saw him cut up her head. Yeah. But
it plays better with the shadow.
It does. Yeah. And it works better. And also, like, I think if you notice throughout the movie why a lot of the blood was like green, blue, they couldn't really use real blood light because that's what really would tip them over for the censors, which is crazy. But it's a clever way because if you think about it, there's really not really like clear blood.
True.
But it works for this film because these deadites, like, you know, black blood, green, it doesn't matter. They're bleeding something.
Yeah.
At that point, he cuts up the head or whatever, but we don't see it. But then the movie eventually introduces us to Professor Nobody's
Professor Nobody's at the airport apparently, and they're coming up here to investigate about this book and the recording. Was her dad.
Yeah, the one thing we learned there is that Ed, must be her boyfriend or something, they have not been in contact with her parents.
Right.
You know, it's been a while, but they're up at the lake and there's nothing. So they didn't really think anything about it, but they're going up there, and little do we know that they're going to be walking into some serious shit.
Yeah. Well, they end up running into some hillbillies.
Was it a repairman? Was it Jake and Bobby Joe?
Jake and Bobby Joe, and he's standing at where the bridge used to be that was destroyed.
And like, what a like kind of almost like lazy type of, I don't know if he's like a repairman or a tow truck.
Was that a tow truck?
Yeah, he had a tow truck.
Yeah, okay.
So he must be like kind of a jack of all trades in that area.
Hillbilly.
But yeah, he puts it up there.
Sorry, tow truck drivers, I didn't mean that.
And he's cantankerous with them right off the bat. He's like, well, is this the bridge? He's like, yeah, but you ain't going over it. And they're like, why? He turns it on, just like they're just like prickish.
Yeah, prickish. Yeah.
And actually, one thing you notice with the characters in this movie, they're actually all assholes. Like, they're not really like likable.
No.
Like even Annie, she's also prickish too.
Oh yeah, she's snooty, and so is the dude she's with too. Like they're all snooty.
They're kind of shitty.
Yeah.
and I like Bobby Joe. She's got a thing of snuff there and just a big gob.
Yep.
Yeah, what you doing? Kind of a sexy lady.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, she can spit. So, and I like how she kind of dupes him about carrying her luggage, because they want them to take them on that other route. And it's a great setup where she's like, okay, deal, I'll give you $100 if you carry my luggage. And of course, you know, Jake thinks he's got one there.
Yeah.
And he looks at it, just her bag, and then obviously it's a big freaking trunk.
A big trunk of stuff. Yeah, he thought it was just a couple bags in the back seat. I know, what an idiot.
Yeah. And I like when we catch up with him and he's carrying, and he's just sweating. And I mean, this guy like really outdid himself. Like, he overshot Bobby Joe, because Bobby Joe's nice looking, where he's got missing teeth and he's short.
I enjoyed him, actually. He was pretty good in the movie.
That actor. I think all the actors that they brought in were fantastic. They were great.
Yeah.
But they get there and they discover Ash is all covered in blood. So typical horror comedy, you assume that he's the killer.
The killer, that's right.
Yeah. And I like how he takes a shot and he does hit Bobby Joe. Mm-hmm. And then they jump and they start beating him and kicking him.
And then just like out of the blue, the hillbilly tow truck driver is like, hey, let's put him down here. And he's lifting the trap door. It's like, okay, that's your first instinct, just to throw a guy down the trap door.
They throw him down there, and then they kind of look through it and they don't find any body. The only thing they saw was the chainsaw covered in blood. But you figure they would deduce the guy's missing a frickin', because I think we skipped over it when his hand gets possessed.
Yes.
Which was, I know we talked, but
it's significant to the story.
Yeah, like it is pretty funny because, and I like when he's knocked out, and it shows you like the slapstick and the talent of Bruce Campbell, how the hand feels like it's a character in its own, just like
like a thing. That's right. Yeah, is that from the Munsters or from the Addams Family? Addams Family. Yes.
Yeah, and he's pulling him, trying to get that cleaver, and then of course he sticks the knife, and he's like, but he's in pain.
Right? Yeah, he's like marveling in the fact that he's being able to destroy his own hand.
But it shows you the Ash's idiocy, because he puts the book, the can and the books on top of it to contain his hand. But of course he doesn't watch it, and he's trying to tape himself up. Yeah. And the thing is,
duct tape fixes missing limbs, people.
And apparently there was a scene where he does cauterize the cut, like,
but they didn't show it.
But they didn't show it. Okay. So you're like, holy shit, he'd have to he'd bleed out there. Yeah. But as he's taping it up, I was like, why don't you watch that hand? His hand is trying to kill you, but he's looking away, and of course the hand gets out. And then now he's shooting at it, and the hand is
so he shoots the wall, right? And he sees it. So then out of the hole in the wall, a little bit of blood starts to drip out, but then it starts to become more than just a little drip, and all of a sudden it's just gushing out of all the walls in the house, are literally spraying him with blood. Like, it's pretty crazy.
Well, the house is like possessed.
It is.
And is playing games on him, because he kind of loses his shit, because he's kind of walking around, he's looking in the mirror, and then the image out of the mirror grabs him and is like talking shit to him, and then it goes back to normal, and like you said, the wall's spurting out, but then it pulls back. But then the whole house starts, like, the lamp is moving.
Well, because he starts laughing, and then the house is laughing at him, like like he said, the lamp, the pictures. Like, I thought this was like Beauty and the Beast, where all the inanimate objects came alive and started talking and laughing and shit. So it's like, what the hell?
With that deer head there, it's like in the deer head turns into like a deadite, and it's laughing. Like, I thought that scene was hilarious.
That was awesome. I really enjoyed that part. That was cool.
Like, you can really tell that Sam Raimi, and this is publicly known, he's a huge fan of the Three Stooges. So if you look at the antics and that, and like Bruce Campbell, like,
you can see it. You can totally see it.
And that's what's endearing about these films, is that Three Stooges.
I get it. I totally get it. Yeah. Oh, right. And then Henrietta.
Of course. So they're kind of playing the shit, and we're hearing the recording of her father, and he talks about where they find out Ash is not the killer, and he's reciting that he opened up the doorway to this evil, into this world, and Henrietta gets possessed, and he had to kill her. But did he? And so of course Ash is like, oh shit, and Henrietta, so they're but they don't even think, well, maybe we should let this guy out of there.
Because he buried her in the cellar down there.
Yeah, he buried her in the cellar,
waiting for company.
Well, I think that's the thing about the Deadites. They're very sick. They're sick characters. Like, they love, like, they'll play on your emotions, right?
Tormenting.
They love tormenting.
I mean, to be honest, if I was like that, I'd love to torment some people. Imagine how fun that would be.
Henrietta is out, and she's kind of wrecking havoc, so he wants to get out of there, so they get him out of there. The hillbilly just boots Henrietta in the head to knock her down.
Oh, he did a lot of kicking. Yeah. He kicked Ash's head a couple of times too.
Yeah, but then the trees go into like full Muppet mode and start kind of like destroying the house, which, like, this movie has like everything. Like, you know, if you're a fan of the Muppets, or you're a fan of the Three Stooges, or Blood, it's all in there. If you look at the trees, they really look Muppety.
Oh, do they ever? Yes. Well, I like here also, when he squishes Henrietta's head in that trap door, her eyeball pops out and flies into the mouth of Bobby Joe gets that eye in the mouth. That was quite funny.
Because Henrietta throws that Ed and knocks him out, so he's kind of injured, but then when they're reading whatever the cantation, Ed gets possessed.
Yes.
He attacks them, and Henrietta's still in the cellar,
right,
locked up.
Yeah.
Where Henrietta's eyeball flies into her mouth.
Yes.
Apparently, the way they filmed that, it was like it was in there, and then they pulled it out, and then
they filmed it backwards.
Yeah, that's a great effect.
It is. Yeah.
Right in her mouth, So right in the gullet.
Yeah.
Ash, we got to do something, Annie says, and he takes off, and right away she's like, "You coward!" Starts going after him, and he gets the axe, and he starts dismembering Ed.
Yes.
That's where all the green blood.
That's right. Yeah.
He just starts chopping it. The dispatch of Ed, it seems like they're kind of on the same page. Okay, well, Ash, he's not part of the problem. But then they go into the bedroom, and then they have kind of an encounter with her father,
right?
Who's kind of makes contact with them.
Yeah, in like a spiritual sense.
And he kind of tells them that, you know, they need to find the pages to kind of do an incantation to get rid of this.
Right.
Or basically open Dumbo, which it kind of does.
Right. So yeah, because they traveled thousands of, well, probably hundreds of miles to go there with these missing pages, and they have not even thought to bring them out. Or you know what I mean? Like they're significant, obviously. So so now they're having to like try and use these pages.
And the one thing that tips Bobby Joe over is that the hand is holding her hand, the possessed hand.
Yes.
And then the lights go off, and then she runs for it.
Yep. And then she becomes a toy for the trees.
She does. They take her on a ride.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to what happens to one of the characters in the first Evil Dead, but not as explicit.
Okay.
But yeah, she gets a rundown big time.
She does.
And screams. And then, of course, they're kind of sitting there. Where's Bobby Joe? But they're like, screw that. We got bigger fish to fry. So they decide to kind of, all right, we need to get these pages, right? Because the father says that if you read it, you can make the evil appear in the flesh,
and then open up a portal to push them into
there to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the hillbilly decides to put a cork in that, and he forces them at gunpoint.
Yeah, he goes AWOL.
Yeah, he goes AWOL.
Yeah.
But you figure, like, talk about logic. Like, this is the only way to, maybe it kind of says that this is the only way you can get rid of this thing, but they gotta go look for Bobby Joe.
That's his love, and he needs his love, right?
Yeah.
Bobby Joe.
And I like how he forces him at gunpoint, but he just beats the shit out of Ash, like, repeatedly. So much that Ash gets possessed again.
Yeah, because it's his time, right? Or was it because of the day, the nighttime, or was it because of anger? Because again, like, I'm kind of wondering if there's a way to ignite his evil inside through anger. You know what I mean? So I don't know if it's always is it a nighttime thing, or could it be triggered by anger as well?
It definitely could. And this is one thing that a little bit of the continuity in this series is, like, you've seen so many people that are possessed. You're under the impression that once they get possessed, they're dead. You know, and there's no coming back, or they usually meet a sticky end. Where Ash, he gets possessed, but then he gets unpossessed.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of see, like, later that Linda's medallion kind of spurs him to come back, because, yeah, like, he goes apeshit and he's attacking Annie.
Yes.
And so Annie's running away from him and trying, you know, avoid him, but then he gets in, but she stabs the wrong guy. So, and this is something that they didn't really establish too much in the movie, is the pronounce that
right,
the
okay.
dagger. So she has the dagger with him, and so she's gonna try to stab evil Ash, but she ends up stabbing
the hillbilly. Yep.
And I just like to scream, "Oh, get it out!"
Yeah.
And then he falls down, and she's trying to close the door because evil Ash, and she's like closing it on him.
She's having to drag him throughout the house too.
Yeah, she drags him conveniently right by the cellar door. Like, easy pickings for Henrietta.
Yeah, and Henrietta looked like she was hungry.
Yeah. She went right to the bone with him.
She did. He had a lot of fluids in him, apparently.
But orange. It was like kind of an orange fluid.
Yes.
Just spraying out. Yeah, this is what makes it so good. It's so over the top.
Yeah.
How do you not enjoy this? Like,
it was a fun watch.
Yeah. And a character like this, you don't really sympathize with him.
No.
Like, I think that's maybe, it's perfect.
Exactly.
Ash kind of comes in and he's trying to kill her, but she kind of avoids him, and he sees, like, again, the necklace, and it brings him back. But I like when he's like, "I'm back." And the thing is, what does Ash think? Just saying, you know how they flip-flop from looking normal to their demonic.
Yeah.
You know, so she still tries to attack him with the axe.
Yeah, he's like, "What are you doing?" I said I was back.
I'm back. And
yeah, she's like trying to chop him with an axe.
Chop him up, eh?
Yeah.
Because the hillbilly threw pages of the Necronomicon down there. They gotta go down and go get it. They're not going unprepared. So this is where the iconic...
Yes.
They go to the shed and they put together the chainsaw.
Groovy.
Yeah, I like that because because he's missing his hand. So now he's made this chainsaw a part of his body.
Yeah.
He is literally like walking and talking with this chainsaw on his arm all the time now, and a gun in the other hand, and he's just ready to go.
And did you notice when he went down there, and I think you might have seen it, I think a person could see it earlier in the film, but you see Freddy Krueger's glove is hanging right by the door to, like, where the plumbing is.
Okay, no, I didn't notice
Yeah.
that. One thing I will say is I did notice that before Ash even walks down there, whenever the trapdoor was open, I never once saw a set of stairs. Because conveniently, you always saw like the bad person coming up and trying to reach for someone or someone getting dragged down there. It looked like a pretty big open hole.
Yeah.
But then when he decides to walk down there, then you're like, oh, wait a minute, where'd that staircase come from?
Yeah.
So I think that was conveniently placed there just then.
And also, when they were trying to get Ash out of the first time there, they were trying to use keys to the trapdoor.
Yes.
But the second time they go down there, he cuts it with the chainsaw, which it still kind of makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll open it up and we're going to go for it, eh? So he gets the pages and we see the Henrietta, of course, is hiding.
And she's looking good.
Yeah, Henrietta's looking good, eh? So it's a great scene. She's hiding by the stairs and he gives her the pages and then she goes after him.
Yep.
And of course, Henrietta gets out of there.
Yeah, you see all of Henrietta.
Like, there's some really cheesy moments in this because to kind of go a little bit back, you know, when Ed is possessed and Henrietta's down there, then the whole house kind of says, we are the dead, and they're floating. Like, it's a great scene. It's a great effect.
They're a tormenting spirit, I guess.
I guess, right? They just they want to have fun. They want your soul to be sucked dry.
That's right.
Yeah. I guess that's what hell would be like. They have the big battle where Henrietta is like causing havoc, going after them, and that's where Henrietta's in the ceiling, where you see where this is where you want to kind of comment on this, where you kind of had some issues with the film.
Yeah, just seeing some of the cables that were holding them up at the ceiling there when they were attacking Annie, I think it was. It was very visible. The cable was like right there. You could see it. I mean, I get it. Like, it's lower budget film, but I think it could have been shot from an angle where you could have hid the cable from behind the person. But you know what? That's okay. I'll forgive it. Yeah.
Well, I was surprised you missed when Henrietta up on that cable. You noticed the cable, but you didn't notice that the back of the costume was torn right open, where you could see Ted Raimi, and Ted Raimi, who is the little brother of Sam Raimi, played Henrietta in the costume. You could see his red gitchies.
Yeah, I was so focused on the cable that I don't even think I was looking anywhere else. That's probably what it was.
Yeah, and I didn't notice the cable, but I noticed the tear in the back
so
of the
now I have to go
costume.
back and watch it and look for the underwear.
Well, we even were talking. We were talking earlier. I mentioned when you see Ash trying to avoid the evil, and you see kind of the whole maze of the cabin. If you looked up, you can see it's on a set.
Right.
Like if you really pay attention. But I mean, you're so caught up in the intensity of the scene, your first viewing, you probably don't notice it. But then when you kind of slow things down and then you read online, because part of sometimes some of these movies is we look for like mistakes or goofs, right? Like things, because they're movies. Like, people are people, that you can't 100% have things perfect.
That's right.
And I think that's kind of to me, I find some of those inconsistencies is the charm of some of these movies, especially.
Yeah, that's what I would call it too. It'd be charmful for sure.
Anna reveals that she's read only like half of the cantations to reveal the evil, to get rid of it. She's trying to do it, but unfortunately that Gadarian dagger with the possessed hand stabs her. Like, that's just like the poor thing, eh? Yep. You can imagine her. She like lost her family. We haven't established if she's an archaeologist. Doesn't matter.
I'll tell you, she sure dressed like one.
She did. She was
I'm gonna say she was.
She was kind of like, I think the actress, when she was talking about it, she like treated her character was the son that he never got, like
right.
the father.
Okay.
Kind of like, she didn't look like a dude. She was nice looking, but boy, did she ever have like a big, like her teeth when she smiled, it was like, it looked like she had more teeth than the average human. She had a really, like, when she had a shit-eating grin when she got the hillbilly to.
Well, when the hillbilly was demonic, there he had many teeth. He had like a million teeth there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, no, that was Ed.
Oh, that was Ed. Sorry. Yeah, it was Ed that had the mouthful of teeth.
If you look at it, he had layer on layer of teeth, and
pretty scary, actually.
Pretty scary, and he eats Billy Joe's hair.
That's right.
That's the only thing he goes after. He starts eating her hair. I guess her conditioner was just tasteful.
Very.
She gets mortally stabbed, right? Typical movies. She still reads the incantation, and then she opens up that whirlwind temporal vortex, which starts drawing in the demon. And of course, at that time, great kind of stop motion with Henrietta, because her head morphs into like almost like a brontosaurus head.
Yeah, long neck, yeah.
And of course, that's just done for the chainsaw.
Right.
So he severs it with the chainsaw, then it says like that, I'll swallow your soul, I'll swallow your soul.
Yeah, and then he's like, swallow this.
And he blows and it's a great effect. I love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. It did. The whirlwind is taking everything, and then of course his beloved Oldsmobile Delta 88, which
it's a beautiful car.
It's a great car, and it sucks everything in. Then we see the apple head that we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And I think this is a great effect. It's really creepy, and it's trying to, I guess, eat Ash.
Mm-hmm.
But like when he first sees it, I like the effect where his hair starts to whiten and you see the plant just die there, which when they filmed that there, they just had a blowtorch.
Well, that's cool.
And they did that in real time. Obviously,
nice. Good effect, yeah.
The side of his head, the one side is white, but it's not like that for the rest of the series.
Right, okay.
Lots of inconsistent continuity.
Yeah.
You got to keep track of this.
That's right.
Yeah. They end up getting rid of the evil, and Anna dies, and then he gets sucked in, takes him all the way back to the Middle Ages.
Yes, like really far back. Yes, where it was earlier prophesized about the book that there would be a person coming from the sky with a chainsaw hand or whatever, and you see an image in this book, and it literally, Ash becomes the prophecy.
He does, and I like how he says, well, this guy blew it, and the irony is it was Ash.
And when all the warriors, I'll say, or whatever of that time, they're all chanting him, they're like, it's him, and he's like, no, he's like, no, telling them, no, it's not me, it's not me.
Yeah,
like,
they think he's a deadite.
Yeah.
But conveniently, a flying deadite, some big bosoms, so it must have been a female deadite with wings, was coming after them, but he takes his boomstick and he blows its head off, just like Henrietta's.
That's right. Yeah.
And they start praising him, and the movie ends.
It's a fun watch. I really enjoyed it.
It's a great watch. I have so much fun, and I'm glad it's our fourth film, our final film in our Halloween kind of spectacular.
We're ending on a fun high note.
We are. Okay. Well, that takes us to Did You Know?
Raz, did you know that Bruce Campbell completely improvised the scene where he fights his possessed hand in the kitchen of the cabin? Sam Raimi praised his performance and used the first take for the film.
Turk, did you know the sexy Bobby Joe, Chew and All, was inspired by Holly Hunter, who was a housemaid of Sam Raimi's in the early 80s, along with Joe Cohen and Frances McDormand.
Raz, did you know, because filming required a great deal of physicality, a classroom in the school used as a filming location was converted to a gym, and Bruce Campbell was trained by a local bodybuilder. When Ash's shirt becomes torn in the climax, the results are quite noticeable. So he actually really worked out hard for this, and he actually toned up pretty good for this movie. Because of all the running and flailing that he had to do, I could imagine how tiring that was.
Turk, did you know many scenes that were deleted from the movie? Quite interesting. One scene was Henrietta in her rocking chair while the professor reads the incantation. Her demonic eyes are unveiled in the cabin's light. There's a scene where Linda Severhead throwing back bile on Ash when the head's trapped in the vice shoots this green shit.
Oh, okay.
And then when the head is in his lap, her tongue popped out, like this really long tongue, and would go into Ash's mouth. You can imagine that's tongue baby or something like that. And actually you can see this footage on some of the making of it, and it looks fantastic.
That's cool.
Then there's another scene where evil Ash is looking and he eats a squirrel. There's a extended sequence of Ed, the one with a bunch of teeth. They actually cut his head in half, and you see supposedly you would have saw this great prosthetic of the head with his little brain and cobwebs. But then there's a scene where when Ash is chopping him up, you see his limbs all severed and they're all twitching, and then you see even part of his head and that moving with all this kind of prosthetic shit, and it was really rigged. It's kind of too bad they didn't keep it in the film. It would have been a great effect, but again, censors.
Wow. So Sam Raimi is too hardcore for Hollywood.
We said this is a great watch. We recommend this one. This one should be watched during Halloween, I think. I highly recommend going out and watching the sequel, Army of Darkness.
Yes.
And but if you really love the zany horror comedy, I recommend Ash vs. Evil Dead. I love that series. I could watch it over and over. Probably going to try to get you, Turk, to watch these. Well, I know you've seen Army of Darkness. But
yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, so thanks for recommending it, and I recommend it to everybody else.
You've been listening to our Halloween special of the Turk and Raz.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Turk and Raz podcast. We appreciate all your support. You can catch us wherever you get your podcasts, such as Google, Spotify, Podbean, Audible, and Amazon. You can also follow us on Twitter at Turk Raz. You can also find us on channels such as Odyssey and Rumble. We would love to hear your feedback. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Smash the like and subscribe to the channels. Also ring the bells for notification and share our videos and podcasts out there. Thank you for listening.